following program does not necessarily represent the views of the Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm so glad you tuned in today. Today we have a great program for you. Is it possible to live a debt-free life? We have a gentleman here who's been doing financial planning and consulting for over a period of time, and he's going to discuss with us some things today that I know you just want to hear. So welcome with me, Dr. Donald Nurse.
Hey.
Dr. Nurse, we're so glad to have you with us.
It's a privilege to be here.
You have quite a lot of experience in this financial. Tell us a bit about what you do and the things that you're able to impart to our viewers today concerning their finances.
Well, I actually started at the age of 18 when I worked in the office of the president of my native Guyana.
Wow.
I worked in the accounting division there, and I interacted with banks and some other financial institutions as a result of that. Later, I served in the military and finally ended there as the second person in charge of finances and budgeting before migrating to the United States of America.
Wow.
By that time, I was able with the experience to be a part of what was then known as Manufacturers Hanover Trust, which is now part of the Chase family of banks. I worked in the facilities management division there, not directly as a banker. I have never really been a banker per se. I've always been interested in finances and financial matters. I finally ended with the New York City, and I worked as a public servant there for a number of years in the same facilities management field, but it entailed areas of finances and such like. I honed my skills with studying at Brooklyn College as well as New York University, where I gained a certificate in financial planning. And I have been for a number of years the director of the Abundant Life Institute, where I've been teaching on principles of financial matters and how people can extricate themselves from this debt cycle.
Well, you bring so much to the table. Can you tell our viewers what are some of the ways that they can cut the debt load down?
Well, one of the main things is to make the decision that you want to cut that debt load down. That's the primary thing, because without a decision, you'll soon fall back into the same situation over again. And what you do once you've made that decision is to look at ways and means where you can cut your debt. For example, you stop buying on credit. Stop purchasing things in credit. Purchase things with cash as much as you possibly can. And that will help you to curtail additional expenses that you really don't need until you are sound financially.
What are some of the advantages of paying with cash?
There's a balance effect there, simply because we live in a credit society.
Yes.
And when you use cash for everything, there's an issue when you would like to purchase something that you cannot afford to pay with cash, like a mortgage, a house, for example. It's a lot. Now, because you were buying things with cash previously, you do not have a track record of credit. And so you will have a difficult time in attaining credit to purchase a large thing such as a house. So the advice, therefore, is for you to have at least one credit card, and for you to purchase items that you can afford to pay off at the end of the month or the most within 2 months. That way, you establish credit, whilst at the same time maintaining a debt-free environment in your life.
Because there's so much of debt going on, there's a lot of people with credit cards, and I know as a financial planner and advisor, a lot of people are going through payday loans. Can you explain a little bit of that, or what that's about, and is that working for us, against us?
It can work for us and against us. It works for us if you are capable of paying it back promptly, just as it says, when you receive your next paycheck. Payday loans are really a cash advance. That's what it really is. And you want to ensure that you pay it back immediately. It normally comes up when you have an emergency. But you see, the thing is, if you were planning effectively, you wouldn't have the need for that, because you'll have a nest egg fund or an emergency fund laying aside that you can tap into when that emergency arises.
Wow. How do they go about establishing an emergency fund?
Well, that will come with budgeting.
That would come well. We're going to be talking about budgeting a little bit later.
Yes,
but right now, let's talk about some of the things that can help you identify. As you said earlier, a lot of people are in denial. What are some of the things that we can recognize when we're going over the limit?
Well, one of the things is, if you find yourself at the end of the month unable to pay your bills in a timely manner, that's a warning signal right away. If you find yourself juggling, robbing Peter, as we know, the proverbial robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yes,
I've heard that before.
Then that's a warning sign that your finances are not in order. If you receive calls from the creditors pretty often, asking when you're going to pay this bill or that bill, that's another warning sign. And finally, your credit report.
Oh, can you talk a little bit about that, the importance of a credit report?
Well, it is very vital that each individual checks his or her credit at least every 6 months.
Every 6 months?
At least every 6 months, because the economic environment changes to the extent that what is applicable today may not be applicable tomorrow. And if you have an issue in terms of spending, you can find yourself in a situation where, for an example, let's say you have credit to the tune of $10,000, and you have utilized 8,000 of that. You have a problem, because it gives you a negative credit report. You've utilized most of your credit. And there's a process called utilization that the credit reporting agencies use to ascertain whether or not you're a credit risk.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so the more of your credit that you use, in other words, the closer you get to maximizing your credit, is the worse your credit score is.
For our viewers' information, what are some of the things or questions that we need to ask our creditors when you want to do it right and you want to, live within your means? Because most people are really living beyond their means. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, one of the things you do is to shop around. Always shop around.
Shop around for credit?
For credit, yes.
Okay.
And by that I mean simply this. There is a difference in many instances of the credit rate that will be offered by different institutions. And so you want to ensure that you have the best rate. And so one of the things you ask is, what is the rate that they're going to charge you for the amount of money or whatever the loan is? That's one of the things. And then you also need to find out from them their terms, the disclosures, which is a primary issue right now in this economy. Disclosures of what fees are there to govern the repayment of that loan.
Wow.
Because there can be hidden fees that in there, which if you do not take those into account, you'll find yourself taking a loan that you can't repay.
Talk to us about reverse laddering. I know that's a term with paying off your debts. Can you just explain that?
It's also known as a rapid debt reduction strategy.
Rapid debt. Okay.
That's it. Many people believe that the best way to become debt-free is to pay the high rate debt first. I don't particularly agree with that.
Okay.
And the reason I don't is because there's a trade-off. If one of the first things you do when you want to become debt-free is to, if you're serious about it, is to list all of your debts, the minimum payment, who is the creditor, what is the balance remaining, what is the rate that is being offered at, and you list them in terms of that rate or that amount. Now, if you want to be debt-free quickly, you would list the items in order of amounts, in a descending order.
That's good, that's good.
And once you do that, you start by paying off, regardless of whether or not the larger amounts have a lower rate, you start off by paying off first the smallest loan that you have.
The smallest. We're going to get some
loan.
victories here.
Yes. You see, because when there's such peace that you receive when you pay off a debt.
Yay.
So if you start with the smallest one, you pay that off faster.
Yes.
And then you can take the money that you were using to pay that one off and add to the second smallest thing, along with what you were paying on that second one as well. So you're doubling up on the payment of that second one. And you create that ladder effect going upwards, climbing the ladder, until you get to the point where you reach the area where your highest debt is. By that time, you would have accumulated so much over a period of time that you will have accelerated your repayment schedule to the extent that for a mortgage, for example, you can take as much as 10 years off of paying back a mortgage.
My God.
Which is one of the largest debts that people owe.
This is so good. We need this advice. What is one of the ways that you can teach people to be more frugal in their spending?
You really can't teach an individual to be frugal.
Back to the decision now.
Back to the decision. It's a decision, and then coupled with that decision, an individual needs to be disciplined.
Discipline.
To maintain the decision that you made. Because it's no sense making a decision today and then you fall back into the trap tomorrow. There are some individuals who are of the mindset that they can never come out of debt because they don't see any way out. They have more bills at the end of their money at month end. There's no way I can come out. But the issue for many such individuals is the fact that because they see it as hopeless, they do not speak with their creditors.
Oh, wow.
Creditors, in many instances, have vehicles that can assist people who are strapped. And if you were to actually speak with a creditor, I'm a witness to that, personal witness to that. When I had some issues several years ago, by speaking to the creditor, I was told of a little-known secret within that company.
Wow.
Given to
That's
me,
interesting.
Had to be an angel that did that for me.
Angels get involved.
Yep. And this representative told me of this secret because I was very honest and courteous in speaking to that person. And as a result, I was able to get rid of that debt.
Because you went after it.
That's
you
right.
decided.
That's right.
Yeah.
I wanted to be debt-free. I wanted to come out of
So what you're really
situation.
saying is we got to make that decision.
That's right. That's
and
crucial.
then once we make the decision, things begin to fall in place.
That's right. And you have to be disciplined enough to maintain what you're doing.
Man, so you got to hold your own self accountable.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
That's right. And if you feel timid about that, get your spouse involved.
Get your spouse involved.
Yes.
Get your partner.
Get your partner.
Yeah.
That's another way of putting it. Yes, get your partner involved so that you can be accountable to that person.
Accountability.
Yes.
Wow, this is so good. I want to change it a little bit now that you've told us some of the facts and things we have to do. But let's talk about budgeting.
Wow.
Wow. That is not a dirty word. Budget, okay? What is a budget?
A budget is simply a financial plan. That's all it is. It's similar to a recipe that you would utilize to cook something.
A recipe.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's all it is. It's a recipe. You want to bake a cake. There are certain ingredients that you must put within that cake. You can't bake a cake without flour.
So tell us, what are some of those ingredients to have an effective budget?
Well, to have an effective budget, you have to start, and this is, I believe, the area where a lot of people shy away from doing it. You need to start with a cash flow. You need to ascertain how much money you bring in current. People attempt to budget on what they expect to earn in the future. That's a mistake.
We're deceiving ourselves,
yes.
Right?
So you have to budget on what you are receiving currently. And so you create a cash flow, which is simply to say, okay, this is my income from every source monthly, and these are my expenses. When you make a subtraction between the two, if you have a balance remaining, you're okay.
That is our goal.
Right. If you don't, then you have to find ways and means of cutting out those, we call it cutting out the fat.
Okay.
All right. The best way to go about doing that is to log all of your expenses quite honestly and seriously from day to day for about 3 months.
For about 3 months?
For about 3 months.
That's going to take some discipline.
Well, if you don't have the discipline, you're not going to make any headway. Once you do that and you divide the total by 3, two things occur here. Now you know what your monthly expenses actually are.
Yes.
And 2, you have an itemized list of what you spend your money on. So when you go to create a budget, you are quite easily able to extricate those things that you spend on unnecessarily, and you can do it out if you are in a shortfall.
Is there such a thing as some fun money? We got all this discipline going, we're paying out these bills. How do we set money aside?
It's called discretionary money.
Discretionary money, okay.
Discretionary money. Yes, it's good to do that, but you cannot put aside discretionary money if you have a shortfall.
And when you say shortfall, some of our viewers may not.
It means that you don't have enough money to pay all your important bills. Obviously, you have to take care of food, and, gas, fuel for your car, that type of thing. You have to take care of that first. For example, one of the important things that you need to do is to save. Some people say, pay yourself first.
What does that mean, to pay yourself first? I've heard that term many times.
Yeah, each individual should have at least 3 to 6 months of savings put aside. Your monthly expenses, whatever your monthly expenses are, you should have the value of 3 to 6 months of that put aside.
Okay.
So you should be saving towards that. So in the case of an emergency, like we mentioned earlier, you would have that money to fall back on. If you have a home and your home starts to leak, you have the money to repair that. You don't have to borrow. And but you can only do that if you pay yourself first.
Let's get down to the practical side. You know, Dr. Nurse, you make it's so simple when I hear you talk, but I know this takes a little bit more effort.
Yes.
When people are buying things, and I know I'm guilty of that, you know, just a sale. I just have to have this. Talk to us about maybe the mindset that we need to do as far as stopping and thinking, do we really need this?
There's a psychological term that is used, oniomania.
And what does that mean?
Oniomania.
Okay, explain that.
Which is the psychological term for shopaholics. You see something and you have that compulsive urge to get it.
Yes, yes.
That is, it can be clinical, or it can be just a physical situation. There's a mind in place, which you have to get rid of.
Okay.
By replacing it with a mindset which says, I want to be debt-free. I have to be debt-free.
I like that. I like that. Yes.
And until you replace that compulsive mindset, you will not be able to achieve the goal. Now, you are in a situation where the world is coming after your money. There are very persuasive marketing techniques. When you see those techniques, you gravitate towards purchasing an item even though you don't need it. And so you have to ask yourself the question, do I need this item now?
Yes,
Will it serve the purpose that helps me and my family? Will I still need it next year, 2 years from now? Is it necessary to maintain this item? Do I have the means necessary to maintain this item? Questions like that you need to ask yourself before you go into a purchase.
What are some of the hidden expenses that we forget to include in our budget?
The expenses would mainly be like overhead costs. No one thinks in terms of tips. It's a simple thing.
That's true. That is
simple.
so
When it's said that your tip needs to be about 20% of whatever it is, no one thinks about that.
That's good. That's
right.
Good.
That's an overhead cost that can mount up, especially if you have discretionary income and you eat out instead of once per month, you eat out once every week. You will be spending a lot of money on tips. You have the cost of fuel to go to the grocery store to get the items that you budgeted for, but you have to go there in a car.
We waste, it's like true confession now. We really do waste a lot of money by buying these things. Can you explain how a budget is really kind of protecting us from wasteful spending?
Well, the budget, as well as, I should say, in combination with a cash flow, helps you to see those areas that you have been spending money unnecessarily. And it gives you the opportunity to cut out the fat, cut out those things that you don't really need, so that you focus on the things that you do need, and therefore end with a surplus that you can utilize to put on that next bill and pay it off faster than you were paying it off.
You know, as a financial planner, I'm sure that you have, dealt with a lot of people. Is this causing some of the extra stress that is taking place in people today?
It definitely is a stressful situation. We must realize that money represents your life. And that can be proven easy. Some people may not agree, but it is true.
It really is.
If you have a job and you spend 35 hours per week on that job, your boss is actually paying you for the time you spent with him doing his work. You could have been doing something else that was more lucrative.
Yes.
Right? So then, at the end of the week, he is paying you for the time that you spend with him. In other words, he's paying you for the life, because you can't regain that.
You can't. Once it's gone, it's gone.
That's right. So the money that he pays you is the value of your life spent with him over that period.
Oh, my.
That's why you need to negotiate with potential employers how much they're going to pay you.
Now, that's an interesting word, negotiate.
Yes.
Fit that into what we're talking about now as far as being debt-free and budgeting. How does that work?
Well, one of the things that you do is to negotiate with creditors, for example. Sometimes you are charged a particular interest rate at the inception of a loan. But things change on the market. And so you know that A good example is refinancing a home mortgage loan.
Okay, yes, good.
All right.
Give us some examples.
You look at your rate, and you have been paying 9% in interest because that's how you started out your loan. But when the market went down, interest rates plummeted all the way to 2.25%. And so once you are a good creditor, you need to ensure that you negotiate with the mortgage lender to reduce your rate. It will. The amount of money you pay in interest on your mortgage is more than the value of the home.
Yes, yes. Oh, gosh.
It's at least 2/3 more than the value of your home.
Oh, my.
So if you can negotiate your rate downwards, you put yourself in a better position.
Now, you know, I know for myself, even there's so many things you're talking about today that I'm not aware of. Are there classes that people can take, or how can they get more information about a good, solid budget that will help them become debt-free?
Most colleges have a community section that deals with life issues, most colleges. And so you can go for one semester and get some courses. I know, I don't want to call the names, obviously, but there are colleges both in PA and in New Jersey that offer life courses dealing with such issues. My advice would be to an individual who wants to understand how to plan their life and budget properly is to do a course dealing with retirement planning. Retirement planning. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you do a course, that's one course on retirement planning, within that course itself, there are issues of budgeting, and
it's all in there.
It's all in there. So, and you're not too young to start. As a matter of fact, the younger you are
the better.
and start, it's the better for you. It costs you less.
Well, listen, in these last few minutes, can you give me some examples, some success stories of those that you have worked with that really had a successful budget and came out?
There was a young man who came to one of the classes that I had, and at the end of each class, he will remain when the others are gone, and he would be asking questions. And I saw his interest, and so I decided to help him with a little bit extra than what I was doing with the others. That guy, he was just in his early 20s, just out of college, just started to work.
Great.
He had some debt, student loan and that type of things. He went about getting rid of them. He wanted to be totally debt-free. As a matter of fact, he told his father, which I learned later, that he wanted to be a millionaire.
Wow.
So he had the mindset to do it. He came back to me just about, I think it was around February of this year. He came back to me, and this is after about 1.5 years, 2 years. Came back to me and says, well, I got rid of the loans, and the rest of it I'm free. Wow. Because he did the laddering that we spoke about. He did that, and he got within the space of 2 years. He says, now I want you to teach me how to invest.
Wow.
So he recognized right away that investing was the way to go. So he is on his way.
It is so important that it is very possible. And I tell you what, you have been such an inspiration even to me and to our viewers. And I'm so excited that you have been here with us. I know that you have enjoyed watching today. And we want to thank you again for tuning in with Joy in Our Town. And we'll see you on the next broadcast.
This is